So we've looked at the lats, we've looked at the thoracic spine, but now we're going to address the pecs. And so the pecs are also an internal rotator of the shoulder. So they kind of take us into this position. So given you're already doing probably a lot of lats, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of chin-ups, pull-downs, and a lot of pec work, bench press, any sort of accessory movement for the chest, that's going to get you very, very tight into internal rotation. Easy way to fix that, lacrosse ball, like we've used in all the other videos, and you want to find that collarbone, that clavicle, and feel kind of where it runs into the shoulder. There's going to be a little bit of a dip there, and that's where we're going to stop. Then feel where it runs into your sternum or your breastbone right here, and it's going to be a fairly short distance. Mine's probably only about an inch, inch and a half, not that long, but that's right where the pec ties in, and also where we kind of get the first rib. So if that gets kind of sticky or matted down, that can restrict overhead range of motion as well as that front rack position, which becomes an issue if you're overhead pressing, because as soon as we go to press, if we don't have full shoulder flexion, we're going to compensate with our lumbar spine or our low back. So lacrosse ball, find that little groove or that little notch underneath your clavicle, and then apply pressure into the floor. So here I'm actually going to wind the arm up behind my back into internal rotation to put a little bit more tension on the pec. Now I'm going to just roll in that spot. If I find something that really is super tight and tender, pause, take a couple deep breaths, and then roll a little bit more. Once you've moved the body on the ball, now we can move the appendage just like we did in the lat video. So take yourself through shoulder flexion, use the other hand to move the ball now. Move the arm through internal rotation, external rotation. Just see where you're really bound up, really knotted up in there. It's not going to be comfortable, I can tell you that. Next thing is you're just going to go into a classic pec stretch. You can use a doorway for this, but a few little modifications. So a lot of people, when they do this, they kind of get in the pec stretch here, they're just sort of hanging out. Like, yeah, that feels pretty good. I'm getting a big stretch here at the front of the shoulder. Well, essentially what they've done is they've kind of just defaulted into this anteriorly tipped position with their shoulder blade. So they've just tilted that forward, and now they're just stretching out the front of that shoulder capsule. So over time, if you stretch out a joint capsule, what's going to happen is that joint is going to be perceived now as even tighter than it was before. Why? Well, your nervous system is trying to tell you that that capsule should have some structure and should have some integrity to it. So anytime we're just hanging out in the capsule like this, stretching it out, and you feel a stretch just the front of your shoulder, all you're really doing is cranking open that shoulder capsule, and your body's just going to tighten down even more to give you that stability, which should be there. So with this stretch, a few little simple modifications that can make it that much more effective, but also safer on the shoulders. So first thing is go about 90 degrees with the arm, whether it be the rack or the doorway. Second thing is to split the stance here. So now it's going to be a lot tougher to actually overarch at the spine and compensate for your spine. Now, just like in anything else, when we're doing the lat stretch, we want to try and breathe into this stretch. So I'm actually going to shift my whole body forward until I start to feel a pretty big stretch at my pec. And it should feel a global stretch all the way down to the attachment here on the sternum, and then all the way up into the shoulder. So you should feel it all through here, not just specifically at the shoulder. So once I feel that stretch, now I'm going to take a couple deep breaths, and that's going to increase the intensity of the stretch, and then as I exhale, I'm going to lean into it a little bit more. So I like to prescribe breaths rather than repetitions or actual time within the stretch, because the breath is similar to a repetition, but rather than actually changing position, so to speak, in terms of your whole body, you're really just changing ribcage position and enhancing the stretch in the pec. So lax ball first, lacrosse ball, pec stretch next, and then finally, you're going to result in a quadruped position, hands and knees here. One hand is going to go on the back of the head. This elbow is going to rotate down until it touches the other one. And then I'm going to rotate up towards the ceiling, follow my elbow with my eyes. Just like that. We want to keep the hips square to the floor, so those don't want to rotate open. So a bad repetition would look like this, where I'm kind of rotating my hips open, but now I'm getting some movement from the pelvis. So ideally in this, we just want the thoracic spine to be moving. So here, elbow to elbow, open up. Just like that. So that's how we kind of address the pecs, and then we work to open them through both the doorway stretch and the quadruped thoracic spine rotation.